Hey, yo, everyone. It's me again, just Fran. Meg is still away, but I am here with y'all for another extra episode. So, this bonus episode is, I don't know, I just had to figure out what I could talk about on my own without my sister here. And I figured since I mention all the time, not on purpose, but in passing, that I have social anxiety, I figured I do want to do a full episode about it, probably with friends who have it. But I figured it would be a good opportunity to do sort of like a teaser episode on common myths about social anxiety and then me sort of answering those myths and kind of addressing from my own personal experience why they're not true or they're somewhat true or whatever. Yeah, so let's just go, I guess. Oh, I'm so bad at starting shit. I'm still feeling heavy from the weekend. I don't know if you I mean you're gonna get this before the other episode I do solo, but basically I'm having sort of a depressive episode, but it's lifted a lot today. Like talking to my therapist has helped a lot. And I just had acting class, which always makes me feel hopeful and open. So hopefully this podcast is going to have a positive tone, but we'll see. I might just slowly descend back into my dark hole. So we'll see what happens. But okay. So basically, before I dive into these myths, so I collected maybe how many myths did I collect? 4. And before I start, I'm going to give you the DSM-5 definition. So DSM is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of the American Psychiatric Association. So it's not a perfect definition, but that's what psychiatrists I think consult for various disorders, like the definition of various disorders when they're trying to diagnose. Correct me if I'm wrong, people. I'm not a psychiatrist, but okay. Here's the current definition from the manual. It's, oh my God, it's long. I'm going to read it real quick. Okay, it's a persistent fear of one or more social or performance situations in which the person is exposed to unfamiliar people or to possible scrutiny by others. The individual fears that he or she will act in a way or show anxiety symptoms that will be embarrassing and humiliating. B, exposure to the feared situation almost invariably provokes anxiety, which may take the form of a situationally bound or situationally predisposed panic attack. C, the person recognizes that this fear is unreasonable and excessive. D, the feared situations are avoided or else are endured with intense anxiety and distress. E, the avoidance, anxious anticipation, or distress in the feared social or performance situation interferes significantly with a person's normal routine, occupational or academic functioning, or social activities and relationships, or there is a marked distress about having the phobia. F, the fear, anxiety, or avoidance is persistent, typically lasting 6 or more months. I'm almost done, I swear. Lastly, G, the fear or avoidance is not due to direct physiological effects of a substance, e.g. drugs or medications, or a general medical condition not better accounted for by another mental disorder. So basically what you really need to know there in a nutshell, at least from my experience with the disorder, is that for me, how that manifests is I used to be, I mean, I still have disorder, but when it was really bad and undiagnosed and untreated, I was very scared of doing anything, like any social activity, like hanging out with people, with my friends at dinner, or watching a movie with them, or going bowling, or any sort of performative activity like giving a presentation for class, or I talked about this in a previous episode, or um giving calling someone on the phone, like anyone on the phone. I felt performative because I'm just like, oh, I have to sound good on the phone and I have to perform not just for the person on the other end of the line, but also like the people around me who might be hearing that phone call. So like stuff like that would cause me such great anxiety to the point where like days or like weeks in advance, as far back as I know that was going to happen, I would just worry. I would just like anxiously worry about it, or come up with like excuses like, oh, how can I get out of this? Like, what excuse can I come up with so I can get out of watching this movie with my friends? That sort of thing. Even though I liked my friends, it's social anxiety is not antisocial. Like, I love people. Like, people with sad love people. They just like feel so scared of being judged. I was just afraid of being judged for everything I did, like chewing. Like, eating dinner was scary with other people because they would judge like how I ate, and like, oh no, what if there's something in my teeth, and like they judged me for that, you know? And the other part about this definition that really rings true in my experience is that I knew logically it wasn't true. Like, logically, I knew I was just like, it didn't make sense. Like, I was reacting like out of proportion or like disproportionately to like these things, but I couldn't help myself. Like, it was just how my brain functioned and how my body reacted to these thoughts. And I discovered I had it. I mean, I've had it since maybe I was like I was always a shy kid. But shyness and sad aren't the same, which we're going to discuss. But I really felt it was this excessive, like, and disproportionate when I was around like 11 or 12. I felt like it was only me that had it. And I was like, there's something weird about myself. And it wasn't until I was like maybe 16 or 17 that I was like, whoa, people have this. It's a disorder. I can get treated for this. So it was like a good 6 or 7 years that I was like going through this thing alone because I didn't know that people had it. And then the worst of times, I was avoiding going out or doing anything because it was so much easier to just avoid a situation than have to bear that anxiety. And I did have a couple panic attacks. It was the worst. I don't remember them because I blacked out. Anyway, so that's what that is. I'm sure we're going to discuss it in more detail I would love to do a full episode on this because it's just so rich. Yeah, you're going to ask, for example, like, you're an actor, like, doesn't performing give you anxiety? That's something I would love to discuss in a future episode. But for now, I'm going to like talk about these myths because they're so persistent. I mean, not anymore now because now people like don't know that I have it, and until they really get to know me, because I'm pretty good at social situations now. But yeah, when people find out, they're like, no, you don't. Anyway, so here's some. So myth number 1: social anxiety and shyness are the same things. They're not. They're similar, but I'm gonna try to like. It's a very fine line, but shyness is mainly like I don't know. It feels like you're sort of a little bit scared of like, I don't know. When you think of someone shy, they're like kind of quiet because maybe they're afraid to talk so much, like in a big group. Like, a shy person might be like scared to go to a party because they're only going to know 3 people, and they're like, oh no, like I have to like make small talk. But it doesn't necessarily give them like panic attacks, you know? Like, they're not necessarily going to be like, if it's an important party, they're not going to be like, oh, I have to think of all these, I got to get out of this thing, like it feels like life and death, like I have to get out of it, otherwise I'm going to suffer. I don't know, I mean, correct, like shy people, get at me, man. Or like maybe they have a specific thing they're shy about, like public speaking. They're like, I'm really bad at it and I'm shy about that because I just can't, I'm not good at it. So yeah, like they don't have that presence, maybe like they don't have a big presence. So like, that's what you would think a shy person would be. And yeah, shy people do experience like some symptoms of social anxiety, I think, but I think what's different is that, like I mentioned earlier, when I am socially anxious about a specific event, I will worry about it in advance. I would plan every detail so that I wouldn't have to like be judged. So like, I don't know. Like, again, if it was a movie with like a couple of friends, I would be like, okay, I have to plan like who are the friends who would be the easiest to hang out with, who would judge me less. Like maybe I could just plan a movie with those two friends. I don't know, like something ridiculous like that, or like what can I what excuse can I do that would tell them that would be believable so that they would let me not go to the movie even though they haven't hung out with me in 5 weeks because I've just avoided it. Like I would worry about every single aspect of it. Or like if it's a phone call, I would rehearse it. I would like practice it. I would write it down. I would make my mom do it, like the making appointments is scary, which is really crazy to me now because like now I'm very comfortable like just calling doctors and shit and like setting my own appointments. And like I was a temp receptionist, I had to make so many phone calls, so but that took time for me to work on, and like therapy. But yeah, I think that's the difference, is that social anxiety disorder prevented me from functioning properly in society. And when I had to like a presentation, like a school presentation, that I can't avoid that. Like I would fail, I would get an F. So when I did do it, I would risk, if I didn't plan it in advance, even if I plan it in advance, like I remember this one AP history presentation, I don't remember it because I just had such a bad panic attack. Like I blacked out, couldn't breathe, like everything was sweating, like, and people I think were laughing, but that might have been my judgment. I don't know. But like, I don't even know what I said. So I think that's the difference, because like there's that risk of having a panic attack and also like not having great relationships because I would just avoid them because it was easier than being judged by friends, even though like I knew that wasn't true. And I thought I was alone too. I thought I was like the only one who was like that. Like it didn't feel like normal shyness. I knew people who were shy, and what I had didn't seem like shyness because I wanted to hang out with people desperately. Um, yeah. So that's myth number one. I get that all the time. It's like, oh, like, do you mean you're just shy? No, that's not what that means. It's very different. Okay, myth number two, social anxiety is just a problem that you just have to learn to live with. Or like kind of related, social anxiety is just something you can snap out of. I mean, I don't need to read you facts, but I'm going to read you a fact here. Data shows that people don't just get over it. Social anxiety disorder is associated with a young age of onset and long duration unless treated. One US study demonstrated that it has a low untreated recovery rate, only 37% over 12 years. That's like an actual fact. But in my experience, my social anxiety lasted for like 6 years before I figured out it wasn't just me going through it. Like if I left it untreated, it would have gotten so bad. Like I just like sacrificed living a fulfilling life. Like I didn't have a lot of friends because I didn't want to get too close because I was afraid if I got that more and more friends, like they were more and more people were going to judge me. You can't just snap out of it. Like if I wanted to snap out of it so bad, I would beat myself up for that shit. I would just be like, why are you avoiding people? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, why can't you just talk properly? Why can't you just make more friends? Like, it's not something I mean, just like it's not something you can snap out of because I've tried many times. And people made fun of me for isolating myself, and that hurt me a lot, and that even made me even want to snap out of it more, and it didn't work obviously until I sought therapy. um it's just so bad, man. It was just really, really bad. Like every single day it felt like it was never gonna leave. That's how bad it felt. Like it just didn't know how to, like I just wanted to pull it out of my body. That's how it felt. So that's a huge myth that it's not possible. Myth number three, social anxiety just means that you feel nervous. That's one of the symptoms, but no, I experience nervousness now, and it's very different. Like I feel nervous right before a show, or like I feel nervous before like going on a first date, but never to the point where I'm incapacitated because like I'm having such a bad panic attack that I can't go. Like because I'm so afraid of being judged that I can't go. Like miles different from nervousness, just plain nervousness. Although nervousness is like a quality that you get if you're socially anxious. Oh, here's a good fact. Like I saw this article online. It says, if you suffer from social anxiety, you will experience cognitive problems, physical problems, behavioral problems, and emotional problems. For example, when meeting a stranger for the first time, you might think to yourself, she must be able to tell that I'm a poor conversationalist. Like, that's not a thought that's stemming from nervousness. That's a thought that's coming from that disorder. Like, because there's no basis in truth. Whereas nervous, you're just like, oh my gosh, like I'm meeting someone for the first time. It's like almost has the same energetics as excitement. It's like, oh my gosh, like I don't know what's on the other side. Like, what can this bring? It's kind of scary not knowing. That's nervousness. Whereas she's gonna know that I suck at talking and I'm not smart. She's going to judge me for that. That's not nervousness. That's social anxiety. So yeah, they're related. Myth number 4, the last one. Social anxiety is just another way of saying you're antisocial or rude. Yeah, as I mentioned, I got that a lot. Either people are like, why do you hate people so much? Or like they think I'm aloof. Like someone literally in high school, point blank, I was sitting alone because I was scared of sitting with people. And this guy just came up to me. He was like, why do you hate people so much? Like implying that I'm standoffish and like I just didn't want to interact with people because I hated them so much. And that really hurt because that's the opposite of how I felt. Like I wanted to hang out with people so bad, but I had this huge thing that was just weighing me down and wouldn't let me hang out with them fully. And I just couldn't fully enjoy happy relationships with them. I'm like gonna cry even now because that really, even now that hurts. Because that's all I ever wanted was close relationships with people. Even now, like remnants of it, of course, is still here. Even though I worked so much on it, where like I'm afraid still of like being really, really close with people, especially like in a romantic relationship, because I'm just afraid they're going to judge some part of me. So that remnants of it are still there. But yeah, that's the most hurtful myth to me, is that because I'm not rude. I love people. I love hanging out with people. Just the dynamics there. Me learning about people's stories, like meeting new people. And so that saying that I'm just antisocial and stuck up or rude is just like, whoa, dude. But it goes to show that even though this anxiety disorder is very common amongst Americans, like not a lot of people really know it. They mischaracterize it as like shyness or rudeness or nervousness or butterflies, whatever. So yeah, I'm looking forward to speaking about this in full. I know Jack mentioned he has it too. I don't know if he's been diagnosed, but like I would love to pull a couple of people, guests on the pod, and talk about it and our experiences, like sort of managing it, living with it day to day, and whether it comes and goes, like depression, which I also am going through right now. So yeah, thanks for I know it's a random episode, but it's like, just think of it as like a teaser, like a little appetizer for things to come. And I would love to hear your thought. I don't know if anyone listening to this has social anxiety or knows people with social anxiety, but I would love to hear your thoughts and like your experiences with it. And I would just love to chat about it. Yeah. Before I close, like recording a podcast, another thing I wouldn't have been able to do in the early days of realizing I had this, because it just the fact that I would have to listen to myself and hear all my ums and ahs and like oh and like little flaws, quote unquote, which is the worst thing to me. Even listening to my own voice was like the worst. So it shows you how far I've come. Yeah, thanks for hanging out for like, I don't know how long that was, 15 minutes. It was cool. Looking forward to speaking about this in full later. Catch you at the next episode. We have some exciting guests coming, so stay tuned. All right, good night, everyone. Bye.